By the time he arrived in Boston in 1868, Edison was a haunted man. The little sleep he got was populated by a plethora of polarized magnets, springs, cylinders, rotating gears, armatures, batteries, and rheostats, all dancing intricate patterns with labyrinthine strands of wire to make the most marvellous advances in telegraphy, and all vanishing as soon as he awoke. He worked the night shift at Western Union, expertly transcribing press messages and reducing the numerous office cockroaches by electrocution. In Boston, then the leading centre of American science and technology, he found a backer to put up a few $100 and rented a corner of Charles Williams Jr.'s instrument workshop. This, by the way, was the same workshop where Alexander Graham Bell encountered his collaborator mechanic Thomas Watson. Here Edison tried to render his nocturnal phantoms into models of printing telegraphs, duplexes, and facsimile recorders. He improved the standard stock telegraph tape printer and went into business with a number of other telegraphers to sell his machine and a stock and gold quotation service to local banks and traders. The month he started the service, January 1869, he resigned from Western Union and announced in a trade paper that Thomas A. Edison would hereafter devote his full time to bringing out his inventions. It must have sounded very pretentious. Still, he was on his way, and more complicated science began to inform intuition. In a second-hand bookshop in Cornhill, he bought Experimental Researches in Electricity, 3 volumes of exploration unimpeded by mathematical abstraction by the self-taught English genius Michael Faraday. He repeated Faraday's experiments and was inspired to begin his own lifelong journal. It proved a way of reconciling his free imagination with his determination not to invent something nobody wanted. He formally recorded steps in all his inventive processes for protection in patent disputes, but he also jotted down any wild idea that came into his head. He had too many ideas, and not enough money for them was forthcoming in Boston. So Edison abruptly abandoned his partners for New York. He arrived in Manhattan in June 1869 at the age of 22. It could not have been better timed. He had no money, and the city was awash with it in an inflationary boom for anyone who could speed up financial intelligence, especially fluctuations in the price of gold. With the end of the Civil War, the country had returned to the gold standard, and gold prices affected everything. Edison was in the offices of Dr. Sam Law's gold indicator wire service as a piecework assistant when its machine broke down and bedlam ensued. Hundreds of brokers' messengers fought at the door for the information, while Wall Street came to a stop, and Dr. Laws and the experts responsible for transmission worked themselves into impotent rage. Edison fixed the machine. He was the golden boy, already noted in telegraph circles for his Boston stock ticker, and someone whose can-do zest attracted others. He formed a series of short-lived partnerships to manufacture and market his inventions in the dizzily evolving telegraph world, in which rival companies were eager for ways to avoid the embrace of the 900-pound gorilla, Western Union, the near monopoly dominated by the railroad baron Cornelius Vanderbilt. Western Union, for its part, was determined to stay ahead. It was representative of a new style of company that was ready to invest heavily in unproven technology. Thus Edison was knocking at an open door when he went before the directors of a Western Union subsidiary, Gold and Stock, to present a device that ensured stock tickers in outside offices would always remain in alignment with the central station. What did he want for it, they asked. In a memoir he tells us he had thought to ask for $5,000, was ready to settle for $3,000, and then bit his tongue. "Suppose you make me an offer," he said, and he was asked, "How would $40,000 strike you?" For that they wanted the right to all his future inventions in the form of stock tickers. In fact, according to the records, the $40,000 Edison remembered was only $30,000, but it was still a substantial sum. It enabled him to make the transition from employee-operator-inventor to independent inventor-manufacturer. His confidence, already sublime, came to border on the reckless. On behalf of partners and on behalf of himself, he boldly contracted to deliver to Western Union private telegraph machines and electrical equipment, as well as 1,200 speeded-up stock tickers, manufacturing them from 1870 to 76 with a machinist in Newark named William Unger. By working 16 hours at a stretch, living on coffee and apple pie and cigars, he delivered all the machines, though his bookkeeping mixed up the accounts of rival companies. Once the 1,200 printers were finished, Unger announced his intention to close the factory and sell the machinery. It might have been a serious setback for Edison, leaving him with no base. But without drawing breath, he bought out Unger with $2,500 in cash, an IOU for $5,000, and borrowed working capital at 18% interest on a 2-year note.